Have you ever done something and then immediately wondered to yourself, why in the world did I do that? In this video, we are going to help explain the answer to that question by introducing you to the Motivational Triad. But before we jump in, first let's take a moment to explain something very important about how your brain works. Out of all the incredible things your brain can do, the main purpose of your brain is to keep you alive and protect you from danger. In fact, this is a responsibility that your brain takes very seriously. So seriously that it uses 3 different strategies to accomplish this purpose. Those strategies are to avoid pain by helping us stay safe and look out for danger, to seek pleasure through instant gratification, and to conserve energy by encouraging us to minimize effort. So when we do something and immediately wonder what we were thinking, we can thank our brain for working hard for us, even if in that moment it can seem counterintuitive or not necessarily good for us. Our primitive brain has a hard time deciphering whether something is actually harmful or just perceived as harmful. Whether that really good feeling we have from eating that chocolate bar is really good for us, or if we've had too many. Or whether that energy we are conserving will help us survive, or if we're just being lazy. When our primitive brain is using the motivational triad, it's just doing its job, what it's been programmed to do, and it's very resistant to doing things contrary to that programming. The good news is, just knowing the programming gives us power over it. Now that we understand a little more about how our brain works, let's go into a little more detail on each of the parts of the motivational triad. Avoiding pain. First, it's important to know that our brain is always looking out for danger, both physical and emotional. Sometimes the danger it alerts us to is real, but other times that danger is just contrived. If our brain alerts us to look out for a speeding car, that is a very good thing. But our brain may also want to protect us from things like the unknown, rejection, or humiliation. This can also be a good thing if it helps lead to things like acceptance, friendship, and love. However, in today's world, it can be taken too far, making us susceptible to contrived emotional danger. In these situations, we need to look inward to tease out the pain and dangers that are real versus the imagined. If we try to avoid all emotional pain, we can prevent ourselves from becoming emotional resilient human beings. Seeking pleasure. Our brain loves to find things that are fun and exciting. Some of these things have positive consequences, like being with friends, being in nature, or creating art. But others can have detrimental effects, like junk food, social media, binge watching TV, and buying new things. When we do something that we enjoy, like eating sugary food, kissing, getting presents, scrolling through social media, shopping online, or even watching a beautiful sunrise, our brain releases a chemical called dopamine. When dopamine is released, it tells your brain that these things you're doing is good and it wants more of it. It's also the same chemical that's released when you're doing drugs. So it's important to understand that dopamine is neither inherently good nor bad. It's just a chemical intended to inform you to keep doing that thing because the brain deems it important. It's important to recognize that both the positive and the negative stimuli will cause a dopamine release, so it's your job to determine what will help you or hurt you in the long run. Since it's your job to make these determinations, it helps to decide beforehand the limit that you want to place on activities that aren't serving you. It's normal for your brain to want more, but you don't have to give in to what your brain tells you. Conserve energy. Simply put, your brain doesn't want you to do anything that takes an excessive amount of energy above that of mere survival. You might not want to hear that your brain wants you to be lazy, but just knowing this is half the battle in overcoming it. Your brain tries to conserve physical and mental energy. In fact, our brain consumes roughly 20% of our body's energy, even in its resting state. Even thinking takes more energy than simply resting, which explains why your brain is even resistant at times to self-examination. A common way that this conservation of energy manifests itself in your life is a strong resistance to change. Your brain wants to be very efficient and keep things the way they are. It hates the unknown and change. Your brain encourages you to keep doing what you're good at and avoid anything that has potential for failure. It doesn't want to waste any energy or time on something that could go wrong. So remember when your brain tells you to avoid something dangerous, to pursue that good feeling, or not to do something ambitious because you might fail or you might get embarrassed? It's just doing what it's designed to do. However, you and your higher brain are the ultimate boss, and you get to decide whether to believe what your primitive brain is telling you, or whether you should question that thought and do something different. Understanding this about your brain is half the battle to making choices that are better aligned with what you really want in your life.